were in the hands of yellow vest protesters as the anti-fuel price rise demonstrations again boiled over into violence. 287 arrests were made as the Interior Minister condemned professionals of disorder.
The government seemed incapable of regaining control. But how do you negotiate with a movement that has no leader? A movement that seeks no political or union affiliation? Eventually, the government understood. We had to talk directly to the people.
And there's so much disinformation, but first of all, let's just get into how this all started, because a lot of people think this is just about a tax on gas. It's not. A lot of news media is criticizing, saying that Facebook is causing all these violence, and it was the main proponent behind this protest. And it's interesting that they're saying this now in the mainstream media, when in 2011 they were cheering it on when it was happening in the Middle East. But there's so much disinformation about the start of it. How did you personally yourself see things unfold here, attending the 3 weeks of the Yellow Vest protest?
Well, it started around about 2 months ago. What happened really is that, yes, it was about the tax on cars and fuel, but it was just a tipping point of something much bigger. And essentially everything that happened during the Macron's government since the beginning, but it's not about Macron, it's about 40 years of destruction of the public domain, the banking sector taking over the country. And people are feeling it not just in their wallets, but they are feeling it in their neighborhoods, their grandmother, their sisters, their baker. Everyone is talking about it since many years. What really triggered all of this is, first of all, Macron's rhetoric, because he has really a way of talking which is extremely aggressive towards people who are working, who are fed up with having to cross the red line on the bank account every second month, and not being able to pay for simple things like for their children for Christmas. But it's I think we are getting to a laser effect, which is everything is coming together in a single point, and it's not about right wing with antifas and whatever getting into violent games. It's much bigger. Like, I've seen people throwing rocks at policemen. You would never expect this kind of people to do this in their life. It's because they are really getting insulted on a daily basis for what they're doing. And now I guess they have crossed the line, and this line will never get back. Never.
I'm coming to the point where I'm like, here, I just would love to share my word with the world. I don't look for fame. I don't look for power. I would be so happy to just stay in my side with my family. But the world is going in such a bad direction that someone has to step out. And one day I just look at the mirror and I realized that I was someone, and that you are someone, and that all the people who are listening today are someone. And the only difference between the people who are staying home and watching TV and hoping that someone is going to do, and people like me, is that I realize that I'm someone. So I'm just waiting for more people to realize, buddy, you are someone. You're not perfect. I am not perfect. You're not educated. I'm not educated. I know stuff. I know other stuff. That's not the deal. It's about all coming together and realize that we are one. We are all together, and we are powerful together. So thank you for saying that I am a leader, but I please, guys, I'm not a leader. I want all of you to become leaders. I want all of you to show to yourself, to your family, to your parents, to your ancestors, to your kids, to your grandkids who are not yet there, who are all looking at you right now, that you worth it, and you're capable, and we're powerful, and we're strong, and we're going to make it.
Regardez, ça vient du ciel là-bas. Regardez bien. C'est l'hélico, regardez. Vous avez la preuve qu'ils nous jettent des trucs de l'hélicoptère.
All right, now a couple things about this as well is not only is this happening in France now, but little by little this is starting to spread into other countries as well. other countries in Europe, and even we've seen some of this happening in Canada. Because Canada under Trudeau, they're kind of following some of the same practices that we've seen in Europe under the European Union. So we see the bravery of these protesters here. They continue to build their lines, face off against these riot police. And again, the second part of this, it's very dangerous, guys, is they want this conflict for a reason. The globalist puppet masters, they want to create conflict and chaos on the streets so that they have the ability to bring in their blue helmet thugs to try to squash this uprising. So we have the right to protest, and it is important that we do. But we also have to be careful that the police are not the enemy always. We have to make sure that they understand that the globalist powers are trying to set us up. They're trying to set up a situation where they can come in as the authority and take total control and total sovereignty away from the people.
I mean, you were just telling me about some of your living situations. We can just move over here to the curb. And the amount that you have to pay each month just for rent, the amount you earn, just absolutely insane. And how people here are pretty much living and trying to earn money to not only raise kids, but also take care of their parents because their older parents are having a hard time surviving as well.
It can be both. It can be or parents taking care of their children after 40 years old. It can be the opposite when they are getting paid for their retirements, which is below the level of poverty. I mean, you can imagine when you are getting a retirement which is below the level of poverty, you're throwing people into poverty legally, which is the reason why people are getting really fed up.
And there's a lot of important aspects to understand here behind this story, because a lot of these protests are from people coming from outside of Paris. A lot of these protests are, again, not left-wing, not right-wing, a convergence. There are nationalists here, there are Antifa part of the protest, but there is a kind of bigger movement, and there's been a lot of people selecting what they like and what they don't like about this movement, but the information is being smeared by the mainstream media. It's being spread by the alternative media, hand-picked, selected what people like and goes along with their political ideology. But what do you think are some of the bigger kind of truths here that people need to understand here? Because this movement definitely doesn't look like it's going away. It definitely looks like it's going to be bigger and way more insane tomorrow, which of course we're going to be covering live on this YouTube channel live. So make sure you're subscribed and click the notification for. And people are also expecting it to get a lot more violent. I mean, you were even telling me that they found anti-tank, like weaponry, missiles here. You were telling me that there was an acid attack on a police officer here as well. I never heard of any of those things. What are some of the bigger truths that people should understand about this movement?
Well, it's a movement that hopefully will take a greater that will reach the world, basically, because it's not about the French population. I can imagine it's basically everywhere in Europe. It's basically also in the United States. We can do it very differently, but people have to stop looking at TV and stop thinking that the revolution will come one day. It's now, first of all, and they have to also think about what can we think through in terms of solution right now and not tomorrow, in order to get to make sure that the banking system is not going to contract the nation states.
Violence is just a symptom. The reason why people are getting violent is because they are despair. They're getting through despair. I'm not saying that every people who go through despair wants to become violent. I'm saying that yes, in a way, we've been infiltrated by people who we think, and we have proof of that, have been paid by the government to discredit the movement by showing weird behavior. The truth is that we are citizens. So if you start to try to summarize the ultra minority and starting to say like 99%, which are all peaceful people, like are violent, like you basically lose credibility. The problem is that people who believe media, again, today, who are still believing media today, are people who need to wake up to the truth that we need to take responsibility for what's going on, and we cannot continue believing everything that the media are saying.
Mediamonopolen är ett hot mot friheten. Det är ingen tvekan om det. De har under allt för lång tid haft monopol och kunnat styra precis vad som går in i människors hjärnor. Och med det kan man naturligtvis styra en politisk agenda, men man kan också styra hur människan fungerar. Om man har grundläggande fundamental kunskap om hur universum fungerar och hur psykologin i människan fungerar, så kan man ganska enkelt styra samhället dit man vill. Genom att hålla människor i rädsla till exempel. Det är en av de stora funktionerna som separerar folk. Så att det här måste vi ha koll på. Vi måste sprida information om det på sociala medier och internet och så vidare. Och det sker ju också nu allt mer. Det finns många bra alternativ som växer fram. Det är ju tusentals kanaler nu som växer fram och pratar sanning istället. Det som är anmärkningsvärt här också tycker jag att det är ju, man måste ju fråga sig, vem är det som hela tiden skriker fake news kring allting som inte kommer från de väletablerade kanalerna. Och det är naturligtvis etablissemanget. Medien som sådan, de vill inte ha konkurrens. Och det handlar inte om pengar så mycket som det handlar om kontroll av information. Så det är väldigt, väldigt viktigt att förstå det. Vad är fake news och varför har man börjat med detta här? Och de har ju gått väldigt långt också. Det är ju det är helt otroligt som man naturligtvis när man styr samhället från toppen kan göra saker för att på lång sikt vinna sina mål. Och i svenska skolor nu idag så lär man små barn hur de ska hitta information och vad de ska lita på. Och det är naturligtvis de stora nyhetsbrandsen som man lär barnen att det är där de kan lita på informationen och allt annat är falskt eller fake news då. Men som sagt, den stora orsaken till att man vill göra detta här, att man måste stoppa detta, det är ju att medborgarjournalistiken växer. Och det är ju på grund av missnöje. Man förstår att pressen är ett verktyg snarare än någonting som hjälper oss. Det kallas för den tredje statsmakten och det gör det även bort i USA och runt om i Europa. Att det är den delen av samhället som håller kontrollen på makten och hindrar korruption och så vidare. Och nu förstår ju allt fler människor att så är det inte, utan medien har mer och mer med åren blivit en del, uppköpt och så vidare, men blivit en del av etablissemanget. Och då har de nu tappat sin funktion helt och hållet.